I recently binged all of RWBY because when I heard that Rooster Teeth was going down, I was like, alright, I better watch it while it's still on Crunchyroll before they take it off. And I enjoyed it. I loved the first 3 seasons that Monty did, and I actually do like the rest of the series, which is surprising to me because I thought it was going to fall off considering how many people criticize it. While listening to some of the criticism, I do think a lot of it's pretty valid, though exaggerated, because one of the biggest ones, for example, is that the animation has gotten worse with every volume, which is not true. The animation for each volume has gotten better and better. Facial animation, character animation, you can see emotion, the acting with each character. It's gotten so much better. But that criticism stems from the action not being as good as Monty's, which is true, at least for the most part. There is definitely some great action in the later volumes, though it's obvious that Monty just had a knack for it, a knack for choreography. But that does not mean that the animation has been getting worse. And like this one, though it comes from a place of validity, there is one criticism that gets a lot of the RWBY fandom really mad that I don't think is completely warranted, and that is RWBY's decision to keep secrets from Ironwood. It goes down to it was a really dumb decision for RWBY to make, that she should have done as she was told, and it led to the downfall and butchering of Ironwood's character. So I'm gonna defend this in 3 ways. 1, on whether or not it was a logical decision to make in verse. 2, narratively. And finally 3, execution. Okay, so was it a good decision for RWBY to make in verse? That's a little complicated, because on the one hand, I could see why she did it. On the other hand, we see the results. But, quite frankly, I highly doubt that any rational human being in her position would have made any different decision. Because one of the big things was that people criticized that she should have done what the adults said, that she should have followed orders. But the thing is, look at the adults in her life. Uncle Crow, though, definitely a trustworthy man, because of his alcoholism, he wasn't the one that he could depend on 100%, despite being the only adult in the room. Lionheart was a straight-up traitor. Ozpin kept secrets of impending doom. That one military lady fought them with a mech. Again, she's an adult. Yeah, so no, I don't care if she's 17 or 19, I wouldn't trust any adult after that with all my cards, because quite frankly, I would have trust issues too. And on top of that, she barely knows Ironwood. She knows Oz, and look what happened with that. And she knows Uncle Crow, and though she trusts him completely, her reliability on him was slowly diminishing in those previous seasons, though considering he's sober now, that's not a problem, but you see where she's coming from. Wrong or right, that was a very reasonable decision to make. But how about narratively? Straight up, I'm just going to say it out loud, it was actually good narratively. Because it started with Ozpin. Ozpin kept major secrets because he has trust issues, and that created a rift between Ozpin and the rest of the team. RWBY kept secrets because she had trust issues with everything that was going on, and that created a inner conflict. And because of that, not only RWBY but the rest of the team was able to have an understanding on where Ozpin was coming from, and that conflict could resolve. So narratively, that was fine. But what about Ironwood? A lot of people say because of that decision, Ironwood's character was butchered. I'm sorry, but Ironwood was always going to fall in this way. And narratively, if he didn't, it would have been bad writing. And that is because of the character he is inspired by. It's no secret that Ozpin and his 3 associates are based off of the Wizard of Oz. Ozpin is based off, well, Oz himself, where Oz was not a real wizard and he was just an inventor. Ozpin's deceit was within his secrets. Both the Lion and Lionheart are cowards, and it's because of this cowardice that led to Lionheart betraying everyone. The Scarecrow lacks a brain, though Uncle Crow is very, very smart. His mental impairedness comes from him being drunk. And the Tin Man lacks a heart. Ironwood was always going to make a logical decision that was heartless. So narratively, it makes sense. But what about execution of said narrative? Now, the execution of RWBY's decision to keep secrets, I think that was fine. Again, it leads to an understanding of Ozpin and where he was coming from. But the execution of Ironwood, I can see where that falls flat. Because even though there were plenty of signs of his downfall, even at his most heroic when he said these lines,
"I will sacrifice whatever it takes to stop her,"
that was definitely going to allude to this hyperfixation in defeating Salem. But even with all those hints, I do admit, it does still feel forced that Ironwood would just go this far into the dark side. But that was before I knew what his semblance was, because they never explained his semblance. He has a passive semblance called Metal, and it strengthens his resolve so it can help him make difficult decisions and help him hyperfixate on a task. And it's because of that semblance Ironwood does what he does. The thing is, you probably should have put that in the show instead of me going to the wiki to find that out. At an RTX panel, this was all confirmed. And they said they left out this information because they didn't want to drag down the story with unnecessary exposition. The thing is, even though it's true, exposition can ruin a good story with annoying lore dumps, a little bit of exposition probably would have helped, because how were we supposed to know? So at least one or two scenes where he explains his semblance or someone explains his semblance, and sprinkle in some more obvious cues when his semblance activates, I think a lot of the audience would have had a much better understanding on why Ironwood fell down this dark path. So no, I don't think RWBY made a bad decision, and narratively, a lot of it makes sense. It's just that the execution of the consequences of said decisions probably deserved some context or some exposition, instead of us having to go to the Wikipedia and finding out, oh, so that's what happened. But yeah, what is your guys' opinion on this? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know. I enjoy reading your comments. And until next time, bye.
Where am I?
I think we're in a fairy tale. Let's try to be more logical, shall we? We fell from the sky. Ruby made friends with a tiny mouse. Blake and I got caught by killer vines. And you got your arms stolen by a
talking raccoon riding on a purple wagon filled with trash.
Yes, that.
Welcome, one and all!
Tell me, why